BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Sutherland, and this is the Scottish Football Podcast, your daily dose of news, views and analysis. It's Wednesday, the 7th of August, and Rangers' Champions League hopes remain alive.
Cherney, can he get control of it? Keeps it in before it gets to the corner flag. Swings in the crossbar! Rangers have levelled the game with what must be the final kick, and it's Cyril Dessers.
After a dramatic draw with Dynamo Kyiv, can they now qualify for the next round?
Oh, it's about getting all our fans behind us in Hampden Park to make the difference, and that we have this 12th player on the pitch with all the noise they can make to push my team forward to qualify.
Also,
Junior Hoilett guides the free kick, and Junior Hoilett has his first Aberdeen goal. Inch perfect placement.
can two more signings help Hibs kickstart their season?
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
We are joined today by the editor of the Rangers Review, Joshua Barrie, and the sports editor of the Scotsman, Mark Atkinson. Joshua, where are you right now and how are you feeling?
I'm still in Lublin. Good morning. It's 7:30, an hour later than the new boat, so I should feel slightly fresher. But I think having watched Rangers last night, there is more to hold on to than there was at the weekend, Jonathan, and they should have a pretty good chance now taking it back home of getting into the playoff round. And
Mark Atkinson, in terms of the Scottish football season in general, I don't know about you, but it kind of feels like slipping on a pair of old, comfortable, controversial slippers.
It's like we've never been away with the Scottish football season. It came back with a real bang on Sunday, I felt, after a decent start on Saturday. Never been away. Love Scottish football season. And after the Euros, it's back to the sort of daily grind of it, I suppose.
Yeah, the wonderful daily grind, and maybe not that controversial so far, but plenty of talking points. Yes, lots to discuss with Joshua and Mark, but before we get stuck into all of it, let's quickly run through the latest Scottish football headlines. As we shall discuss more shortly, a dramatic 94th minute Cyril Dessers equaliser earned Rangers a 1-1 draw in their Champions League third qualifying round first leg tie with Dynamo Kyiv. Sticking with the Ibrox club, they've settled a multi-million-pound dispute with the administrators of a sportswear brand in a row over their kit. On the transfer front, Hibernian have signed former Barnsley midfielder Nicky Cadden. The 27-year-old will team up with his twin brother Chris in Leith, as well as Canadian winger Junior Hoilett, who's also joined the East Road side following his recent exit from Aberdeen. And on the other side of Edinburgh, Scotland international defender Stephen Kingsley signed a new 3-year deal with Hearts, describing the decision to put pen to paper as an easy decision. Right, let's get to the action in Lublin. Joshua Barrie, what did you make of the match overall?
I thought, Jonathan, that Rangers' opening game of the season against Hearts was felt pretty timid in a way. That there's a lot of context around this August because so much work is happening and Rangers are continually speaking about how they're looking long-term, not just short-term in the transfer market. But obviously, as everyone knows, there's not much time in the old firm. You can't just write off August. And Saturday's performance, I don't think it was the kind of grand new opening of a season. Yesterday, I thought they were a lot more aggressive and that helped them, especially off the ball. They didn't allow Kyiv to settle. I think there was a bit of apprehension. I don't think many people are Dynamo Kyiv experts heading into this game. Natural apprehension when a team has scored 9 goals, isn't there, heading into a third-round Champions League qualifier. But I thought Rangers probably deserved a point over the course. Maybe slightly unfortunate with the goal they conceded off the back of a mistake, but they were pretty aggressive off the ball. I thought they grew on it. Positive substitutions. There was a lot made of the starting 11. Again, just one summer signing. Positive substitutions, and I thought overall it was the quality, the directness of Yefty, the quality of Cherney and Cyril Dessers just keeps going, doesn't he? Even when he misses, that ultimately deserved a 1-1 draw in the end.
Mark, there was certainly a flatness there seemed after Rangers' 0-0 draw with Hearts at Tynecastle at the weekend. obviously a lot more positivity about this result. Was a draw last night, do you feel, the fair result?
Yes, it was a fair result. I was a bit underwhelmed by both teams in terms of Champions League quality, but that's what you get in the third qualifying round. In particular, Dynamo Kyiv were not nearly as good as a team that we thought they would be, given that they had really taken care of Partizan comprehensively. Rangers got their tactics, I thought, pretty much spot on in the first half hour of the match. They pressed high, they tried to force Kyiv into mistakes, they saw a lot of the ball. They were enterprising, but they didn't really have an awful lot in the final third. In fact, neither team really did. Both teams will be disappointed with the chances they missed. But what I would say after that match is that Rangers don't have an awful lot to fear taking Dynamo Kyiv back to Hampden. I think they showed in that match that they're very much got their measure, and they kept going, and that goal changes the complexion of the tie. It gives Rangers the impetus, the momentum, and it will also give that team, and it's a new team, as Joshua said, a lot of confidence. Those sort of moments in football matches, they gel squads, they galvanise them. You saw them celebrating in front of their fans at the end. They'll be delighted with what they've taken away from Poland, and it should act as a catalyst for this group of players to grow. And Philippe Clement will be so pleased to have that in the bank. They've got 2 matches now at hand, in the league game first and then Kyiv. There's no reason why they can't kick on now after that.
Joshua, Mark describes it as a new team. It kind of feels to me like it's still waiting to fully be a new team. I don't know how Rangers fans feel about it right now. Yes, there are a few new faces in the door, but is there still a sense that there's a lot of work to be done before this is the Rangers side that Philippe Clement and Rangers fans would want for the season ahead?
I think there has to be. There's been this kind of growing sentiment over the course of the past week that, especially after the Hearts game, the starting 11 feels quite like last season, and this feels a little bit like the Rangers towards the tail end of last season, and it's kind of because it wasn't it? There was only one new player in the starting 11 in Connor Barron. But where I agree with Mark is if you look at the core of this Rangers team, in a way for me, Jonathan, the outgoings this summer are almost more telling than the incomings, because they have a lot to do in one window in terms of getting the wage bill down, in terms of restructuring. I think especially the senior core leadership group in that dressing room, and they do need results to help kick that off. Robin Proper and Václav Černý are not players who have been brought in to sit on the bench. They're going to go straight into that starting 11, but especially with Černý, he's had a longer haul. He's going to take him time to get up to speed. If you look at the other players that they've signed at the start of the window, perhaps it's been a little bit too weighted towards the future. You know, Clinton Insiala and Hamza Egamani, they're not close, for example, to start next week against Kyiv. Clement also has a difficult proposition, though, of the fact that what do you do if you reach the Champions League? Now, it's maybe unlikely at this stage for Rangers. Maybe getting that next payment to get into the next round is more likely. You're planning for a lot of different eventualities, but you also have to get the squad a lot more ready come this time next month. So I think Rangers supporters will think, look, it's about getting through August. You'll need results to hold on to. You need performances just as importantly to hold on to. And last night was more representative of, okay, maybe this is what Clement wants to do. I think there is still style questions, but as I was saying at the top of the show, Clement as spoken about will look better in August. The team will gel in a couple of months. He's trying to solve these injury issues. How that goes on, even if it's a long-term project, still in the old firm, you still need those short-term results, which I think last night will have pleased him, because he got the result that he needed in the end. And listen, it wasn't a brilliant performance, but again, there was more to hold on to than the weekend against Hearts, and that's going to have to be the same next week. Because if Rangers get through, if they get into the playoff round, even if they don't go and make the group stage, which they have a good chance of doing, by the way, compared to previous seasons based on the draw, that payment to get into the playoff could be really significant for their transfer business.
It was a fantastic finish, a fantastically important goal from Cyril Dessers last night, last kick of the ball. Let's talk about him, Joshua. He said after the game that a bit more recognition would be nice. Does he deserve that?
Yeah, I think there's a great habit of Cyril Dessers of talking about what he doesn't do and maybe failing sometimes to acknowledge what he does do. My view on him is that over the course of a season, should Rangers be totally reliant on him to be their number 9? No. And had injuries gone a different way, that wouldn't have been the case last season. If you look at Rangers' season last season, from January to March, Dessers and Jack Butland's really overperforming. and March to May. They didn't, and the Rangers squad team was just not good enough to be able to carry that. Also, if you look at the weekend, it was a good chance that Dessers missed when he hits the post and the crossbar. It's not a glaring one. I think he underperformed his expected goals by about 1.5 in the league last season. Still scored 22 goals. What I like about Dessers is that he keeps going, and I think that if you look at the start that he survived at Rangers, not many people survive that. Not many people survive the criticism. Not many people have the mentality to go again and go again, whether that be over the course or whether that just be in a match. Last night, it felt like he was on the periphery of the game for a long time, but he keeps going right to the end. He's a positive big guy, lovely to deal with, and he gets his moment. So should he get a little bit more recognition? Sometimes, yes. I also think that if he was a maybe second choice striker, or if he was competing alongside someone and that burden wasn't so heavy, then the conversation would be more on what does he bring instead of always looking at what he doesn't bring to this Rangers team.
Mark, you must have been punching the air last night when Cyril Dessers found the net, because of course you had him in your Premiership Team of the Year last season. So I'm guessing, I know the answer to this question, do you feel like the perception that people have of him sometimes is unfair?
Yeah, I do. I'd still stand by it. I think last year wasn't a vintage year in Scottish football for strikers, hence why he crept into my team. I like what Cyril Dessers brings to the table, but I also dislike what he doesn't. He sometimes needs 4 or 5 chances to score a goal. That's a problem at a club like Rangers. But I do like how he leads the line. He's very physical. A lot of the work that he does is really gratefully received by his teammates. He takes the knocks, he links the play, he keeps Rangers up the pitch. And that's invaluable at times for a striker. But as Joshua says, you can't rely on him as your main striker. His goal tally was decent last season, but my goodness, it probably should have been more. It should have been close to 30, given some of the chances he missed. You need different types of strikers for different matches, and that's one of Rangers' biggest issues. They haven't had enough options in that part of the team. Danilo's coming back to fitness, but they're naturally making sure that he's 100% right before asking him to do more. So at the moment, it is up to Cyril to lead the line. And yeah, it was a great moment to see him score because he gets so much criticism. He is a very likeable personality when you talk to him, and he's the sort of character that I think you need in a dressing room. So very much part of the Rangers squad. I do hope last night does take a bit of weight off his shoulders, but they still need more in that final third if they're going to get to where they want to be.
Joshua, in terms of other areas of the pitch for Rangers, I think Ridvan Yilmaz against Hearts was good, and I think it was one of the positives for Rangers at the weekend. But obviously Jeff Day's come in and he was impressive last night. I mean, what did you make of that and the other areas in the Rangers side that you perhaps feel need strengthened as well?
I thought Jeff Day was, he was just good fun, wasn't he, on the ball? It's actually, sometimes it feels rare to see a player, and he's a left back, just pick up the ball and seem like they're enjoying the weight of the responsibility instead of trying to pass it on to someone else. And Jeff Day's been brought in to compete with Ridvan. You're right, I thought he was good at the weekend, and he was really good before that injury at the start of 2024. Still has that consistency to prove, but certainly his best football at Ibrox has come under Clement. They still need to strengthen in a lot of areas, though, because you look at that midfield last night and they're one injury away from not having a natural replacement in a number of positions. They've brought in Robin Proper at centre half, but I think there's an argument they can still do with a little bit of depth there, even though you look at the numbers, depth of quality, but you look at the numbers there, and that's maybe not the immediate quality. The Rangers are still a few starters away from being where they need to this season, and last night doesn't change that for me. But what I do think you see with someone like Jeff Day is that what they've tried to do this summer, or what they're trying to do, is replace the likes of, a John Lundstrom with Connor Barron, take that average age down by 10 years, take the wages down significantly, Borna Barisic with Jeff Day. And also stylistically, I think what this Rangers squad have lacked, because they've changed from style to style to style to style, and they've changed their recruitment policy so readily over the last few seasons, Clement has inherited the squad where, for example, he plays with wingers and he's not had any wingers. He plays with a very different configuration of midfield to the one he inherited. So I think it's about trying to realign that, not just naturally to his style of play, but to get more physical profiles in the Rangers starting 11, to get more ball carriers, and obviously kind of try and solve those fitness issues as well. But I thought Jeff Day there were some murmurs, would he start on the left wing pre-match? That didn't happen. But he made a really positive impact from the bench, didn't he? And he was just direct. There's maybe some questions about the time it will take him to mature as a defender, but certainly going into the next couple of games, I don't think he'd have many reservations about playing him in that left wing position, because for being a conventional left back, he's really, really comfortable on the ball. I thought he picked out a good pass, although it initially looked like an overhit one in the lead up to the equalising goal. And Václav Černý, who looked a little bit leggy to me for a lot of that second half, and understandably, given that he's hardly trained since come back from holiday. But that cross was a real moment of quality, wasn't it? And again, that's an area of the pitch that Rangers haven't had much quality in for a number of seasons, which is the right wing. But that last night as well doesn't change the fact they need a good few starters going into the rest of the season.
Josh, just briefly, how important is it, you feel, for Rangers to secure Champions League football?
It would be transformative, the finances, now more than ever, wouldn't it? Even getting to the playoff round would be significant for this for this summer's transfer business. And Clement was asked about that pre-match, the fact that when he's trying to balance his squad, when he's trying to plan for this window, how can you do it based on Champions League finances when the playoff is on the 27th to the 28th? That's a difficult question to answer. They've still got to get their squad ready regardless, but the money would be transformative if you spend it well. Rangers haven't spent their money well in the transfer window in the last few seasons. I think that might change with the direction they're going in. It's going to take time, but certainly the potential of getting into the Champions League, if you spend it well now as a Scottish club, I think can be absolutely transformative.
And do you think they'll get through to the tie to face RB Salzburg or FC20?
I think they should. As Mark says, last night there was a bit of trepidation going into the Kyiv game because they'd scored 9 goals. They're not going back to Ibrox, but they are going back to a more familiar venue. There's no reason based on last night that they shouldn't go through. I think Salzburg, presuming they go through, would be a really difficult opponent. Are they as good as PSV last season? Probably not. That's where the frustration will be if Rangers don't make it, because they should have their squad as ready as possible for this stage of the Champions League. They've got a really good chance, and based on last night, I certainly don't think they've got anything to fear come next Tuesday at Hamburg.
Just finally, before we go, another busy day for Hibs yesterday with Junior Hoilett and Nicky Cadden arriving at the club. Mark Atkinson, what do you make of those signings?
Important signings for Hibs, given they desperately need additions to that squad. They're both experienced players. Cadden 27, Hoilett 34. Both have played in British football and Scottish football. So they tick the profile that Hibs require. They're going down a different route in terms of their transfers this year, making sure that they sign players that are not deemed such a risk in this league. Hibs also have an issue on the left-hand side. Jordan Obita is their only left-back at the club, or senior left-back, and they've had to rely on Rudy Molotnikov, an 18-year-old who's played well on the left wing, but is actually naturally a central midfielder or attacking midfielder. Hoilett and Cadden both play on the left. Hoilett's very much an out-and-out forward player. Cadden can play at left-back or further up the pitch. So they're addressing a problem area of the team. No surprise to see a reaction from Hibs, given the horrendous start to the Premiership campaign away at St Mirren, where it wasn't just the result, Jonathan, it was also the performance that was very underwhelming. And a lot of Hibs fans are concerned about the direction of the club right now and concerned about the strength of the squad. So those two players will definitely help alleviate some of those fears. But they play Celtic twice in the next couple of weeks, once in the league and once in the cup. So they haven't got much wriggle room to settle in, these guys. And there'll be more coming in at Hibs. It's not just these two. They will definitely strengthen further before the transfer window. And they have to, because I think we saw at the weekend that a number of clubs are in quite strong positions. Hibs are not one of them right now.
Yeah, Hibs also linked with Dundee's Luke McCowan, Fulham's Kieran Barrie. Obviously, Junior Hoilett and Nicky Cadden, you'd imagine, would be decent signings. But it was the defence, wasn't it, Mark, against St Mirren? I think that diabolical was how Michael Stewart described it to me on Sports Scene on Sunday night. Yeah,
they were cheap goals to concede by Hibs. The first one, there's not enough strength on the right-hand side of the defence. The second one is born out of a mistake by Marvin Ekpiteta, doesn't see the back pass, doesn't see it being intercepted. And it was actually the worrying way that Hibs just fell apart once they went 2 goals down. There was very little fight and very little organisation. They have signed 2 new centre-halves in Ekpiteta and Warren O'Hora, and they have a new goalkeeper in Joseph Bursick. So they have tried to address that area, and they brought in players that have played in English football who they think could come up here and be strong. Of course, you defend as a team, and while the back four didn't look too clever in the goals, that they didn't get much protection from the midfield either. So there needs to be a robustness brought back into that Hibs team that was so often their Achilles heel under Nick Montgomery and Lee Johnson. They conceded goals for fun and cheap goals at poor times in matches. But I'm pretty sure that Malky Mackay, the sporting director, and head coach David Gray will be aware of this. They know they have to toughen up that team. David Gray, as a player, was a no-nonsense right-back. He played in good defences, so he should know how to configure one for this league. We talk about defence, Jonathan. You mentioned Luke McCowan. They need creativity as well. The Hibs need reinforcements throughout the pitch. There are good players at the club, but they also need a lot more to make sure that they're fighting at the right end of the table.
As you mentioned, a double-header against Celtic next for Hibs, starting with the league match at Easter Road on Saturday. That's all we got time for. Many thanks to Mark and Joshua. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every weekday morning. So to make sure you don't miss out, just follow or subscribe wherever you listen. Scottish Football, the gift that keeps on giving. Thanks for listening.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.